This video is brought to you by my two books, Practical Music Theory for the Rock Guitarist and The Blues Guitar Bible. Want to learn about modes, harmony, scales, chord substitution and keys? Or maybe you're interested in supercharging your blues guitar rhythm and lead chops. Whatever you're interested in, I guarantee you will be hitting the fast lane to progress with either of these works. Both feature video demonstrations and tutorials, loads of tabs and jam tracks to play along with, and I promise you, everything is explained in crystal clear plain English. Check out the links in the description for more details. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Let's talk about guitar prices and specs and brands and how all of those elements that make up the way we look at a guitar, how they affect our buying decisions. My journey, because apparently these days we're all on a journey, aren't we? My journey in terms of the guitars that I've owned started in the late 70s with cheap guitars that were, by definition, they were late 70s cheap guitars. They were cheap and nasty. And I sort of gradually clawed my way up the greasy pole. You know, getting a little bit better guitar each time, going from, you know, kind of a Woolworths Top 20 via a guitar like that satellite Les Paul copy you can see on the back wall there, and, you know, brands that figured along the way were like Washburn and I think there was an Ibanez or two in there, certainly some Yamahas, Squires and stuff. And gradually, by about 2006, 2007, I'd got to a place I was quite happy with. I owned a PRS and a custom shop Strat. And then the bottom fell out of the world financial system, and times were tough for many people, me and the missus included. So expensive things like guitars ended up getting sold to pay things like electricity bills and mortgage payments and stuff like that. But there I was a guitar teacher. I couldn't be without a guitar at all. You know, so I had to fill the space with something, and that's when I found myself back down at the bottom rung of the ladder again. You know, amongst the budget guitars. And the thing that struck me immediately, and this is about 2008, 2009, was just how much the world had changed. You know, no longer were we living in a world of Marlin sidewinders and well, you know, satellite Les Paul copies. You know, I think probably the first budget guitar I bought on my sort of climb back up the ladder again was a vintage V6. Lovely Strat copy with Wilkinson pickups and hardware, and it was a good workhorse guitar for me, that for a good while. And, you know, and gradually I started to, you know, ascend the ladder again. It wasn't a linear journey. There were kind of bumps in the road. But it did teach me a little bit about, you know, the value of these budget guitars these days. And I will admit that I did get a little bit evangelical for a while. Let's say there's this guitar which costs a fraction of what this guitar costs. This one looks, sounds and plays a lot like this one. You'd be hard pressed to tell them apart in a blindfold test. Therefore, if you buy this expensive guitar over this one, which does everything that the expensive one does and costs a fraction of the price, if you buy the expensive one, then what's wrong with you? You know, I did sort of go down that route for quite a while, because mainly I was sort of dealing with my own sort of surprise at just how much things had moved on. So it's no secret nowadays that you can buy a very, very highly spec'd guitar for not very much money. Sometimes the cheaper guitar will not only be the equal of the let's say the more brand conscious version, but it will often have, you know, details and specs that are better than what happen on the more expensive guitar. Here's some examples of that. Right, if you've got about 400 quid or slightly under to spend and you're wanting a HSS Strat of a pretty good quality, then one of these should be on your list to check out at least. The Harley Benton ST Modern Plus, £379, buys you an Alder, I believe, body, yes, and a roasted and flamed Canadian maple neck. You're getting locking tuners, you're getting a beautifully ergonomic neck heel there, you are getting, where's the picture, that one there, you're getting lovely stainless steel frets with rolled fretboard edges. There's a lot to like about this guitar. The Tesla pickups that come in it, I can vouch for them, you know, they're perfectly fine. You may or may not have your own favourite, you know, kind of flavour of pickups that these may or may not sound like, but there's no impetus to be, there's no necessity to change them because they're awful, is what I'm saying. They're perfectly usable set of pickups, and you're getting the Babbage full 2-point full contact trem, which in itself is not a cheap piece of gear if you're buying it as an aftermarket part. Maybe you're wanting a slightly different spec. This Jet GS600, which features a mahogany construction, you're getting a mahogany body with a flame maple veneer top and Alnico 5, I believe, pickups. It just says Alnico humbuckers and single coil. Usually that means Alnico 5. You're getting, I think, is that an ebony board? Let's have a look. Yeah, ebony fretboard. You're not getting the stainless steel frets on this. Does it have the locking tuners? No, it just says tuning machines chrome, but you know, that's not a deal breaker for most people. It is for some, but certainly not for me. So again, just a shade under 400 quid. And both of these guitars are obviously, you know, referencing something like this, the Fender Player 2, or just a Fender HSS Stratocaster. This just happens to be the latest incarnation of it, and you'll notice the price, £699. The others were both just a shade under 400, and this is 700. So, you know, you're getting, well, what some people would describe as a lower spec guitar. You're not getting the bone nut on this guitar that I think the Harley Benton has a graphite nut, and the Jet has a bone nut. This is synthetic bone, i.e. plastic. And let's have a look at some more pictures. There we go. You're not getting the nice ergonomic heel joint. That said, you know, how many great albums have you listened to over the years where Strat players have played right up the dusty end of the neck without having a contoured neck heel joint? Where, you know, for years we kind of played around that sort of thing. It's not a deal breaker, but all I'm pointing out here is that it is available on you know, a more ergonomic design is available on cheaper guitars. I think these also have rolled fretboard edges as well, but you know, there is a disparity in the price. 379, 699, 399, 699. So you are paying, you know, a premium, I think, for the Fender brand, which is what we're talking about today. Let's imagine your guitar taste are a little bit more single cut orientated. I can vouch for these guitars. I've had one of these in here to review, the Artist AP59. The one that I had a few issues, but you could see that they were just sort of individual things on that guitar. It had a bit of a shonky tuner, for example, and the intonation was a little bit wobbly, but all in all, it was a great guitar. The Bullbucker pickups in this are they're very much aping that sort of Seymour Duncan kind of JB in the bridge and jazz in the neck, and that's a combination that appeals to a lot of people. Why it's a very popular pickup combination. You're getting all of the usual sort of things that you'd expect in this guitar. It features apricot burst finish over a 5A figured flamed veneer. Very nice that they're being honest about the fact that it is a veneer. Not every manufacturer will just say a maple top, you know. I believe this has, you know, mahogany in all the right places and everything. So, yeah, I mean, a serious contender. from memory, this was quite a bit of a chunky guitar in terms of weight, but you kind of price that in a lot of the time when you're looking at Les Paul style guitars. Maybe you want something that's a little bit more, to coin a term, authentic, as in playing authentic, then, you know, the Epiphone Les Paul. These guitars are excellent guitars. I've had a few of these through the office in here and enjoyed playing them immensely, from the Les Paul Classic Worn, the Epiphone Les Paul Custom. I've had a couple of those Epiphone 59 Les Pauls in here, and just great guitars, massively fun to play, and they sound and play and just react like any guitar that has the words Les Paul written on the headstock. But maybe nothing but the real thing will suffice. 1600 quid will buy you a Gibson Les Paul Modern Studio. This is the sort of latest entry-level Gibson Les Paul. I have the one that came before this, which was the Les Paul Tribute, and I love that guitar. You know, I didn't pay anywhere near this for it, though. When I bought my Tribute, it was I think $999. I think I paid just either £5 or a pound under £1,000 for it, and that model's since been discontinued, and this is its replacement, complete with Gibson style price hike. You've got that slightly more contoured heel there, which my Tribute doesn't have, and you know, most importantly for anybody who's buying one of these guitars, I suspect it's got that name on the headstock, because frankly, you know, you will get very similar results out of this guitar, which has you know, let's say a fair degree of the same heritage as the Gibson, and you know, this guitar, which has none of that heritage, but does sound remarkably like something that has that word on the headstock. So there you go. That's just some food for thought to chew over as we ponder the issue of specs versus brand versus perhaps a little bit of brand snobbery. So hopefully that illustrates that you know, there are some things other than the details that are on the specification list that influence the reason why we buy a particular guitar. I had a beautiful Harley Benton Les Paul copy. It was the SC 550 something or other. Beautiful looking guitar, played fantastic, really big, nice, chunky stainless steel frets it had in it, and it was a great guitar. If all I was wanting was a functional musical instrument that did that sort of set neck twin humbucker 24 3/4 inch scale kind of thing that you expect of a Les Paul style guitar, I would have been happy with that. But yet I ended up giving that guitar away in an online contest on this channel, and I bought this. This is my Gibson Les Paul Tribute. You know, in terms of it being a functional musical instrument, you know, it doesn't have the stainless steel frets that the Harley Benton had. But I never really bonded with that Harley Benton, and I really have with this in a big way. And it's a beautifully comfortable guitar to play. It does all of the sounds that I want of a guitar like this. I love the satin finish on it. I like the fact, actually, that one of the things that you know, people criticise this Tribute model for is that it doesn't have the binding. I prefer, I think, the you know, the guitar without the binding, certainly on the neck at least. But the point is, I had a perfectly serviceable instrument of this type, and I wasn't happy until I'd got one that had the G word on the headstock. Does that make me a brand snob? Well, yeah, probably it does in many people's eyes. But, you know, as I've said before, guitars are musical instruments first and foremost, but they also fulfill other roles in our lives. I'd had a particularly good year, you know, lesson-wise, and I'd also had a particularly good year on a personal level. I'd had a little visit from the cancer fairy, basically, and I'd come out the other side of that. And, you know, I wanted a trophy. And that's what this guitar is. It is very much just my little reward to myself for having had a good year and having sort of come through a trying time. So I think I've learned the lesson that, you know, the person who buys the expensive guitar that may be a little bit lower spec'd than the highly spec'd copy isn't necessarily a brand snob. Maybe they're just, well, it depends how you define brand snob. I mean, I'm not a brand snob because one of my other favourite guitars is this here, this Jet guitar, a budget Telecaster copy that I've had a few mods done to it. And another one of my favourite guitars is, hang on, this little cheap and cheerful Paisley guitar. Okay, now if I was a proper brand snob, then I wouldn't be seen dead playing a guitar that you can buy for 120 quid. Excuse the squeaky chair, by the way. So I don't really think that qualifies me as being a brand snob, but yet I did kind of think it was worth having a guitar with the G word on the headstock. And it's a circle I'm still not sure I can square, but it is what it is. I know I've got an emotional bond with that Les Paul that I didn't have with the Harley Benton that it replaced, even though the Harley Benton was arguably a higher spec guitar because of the frets and everything, and that had the binding, and it had a figured top, albeit only a veneer. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that guitars are not just necessarily musical instruments or consumer goods. They are something that we invest emotion in, and sometimes there is just that indefinable something that draws you to a guitar, in the same way as that it's that indefinable something that draws you to your significant other. It's not all transactional and about kind of running down a list of specs. So I think I've learned a lesson there that maybe if you're the kind of person that buys the expensive guitar over the better spec'd kind of cheaper copy, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are a brand snob, because I've done exactly that, and I don't consider myself a brand snob. Anyway, I'm starting to waffle here. It's just some general musings on why it is we buy particular guitars when we know that there is possibly an alternative that is less costly, but we still go for the more expensive option anyway. Is that something you have any experience of? Is that something that has weighed on your mind at all? If so, let me know down in the comments. But that is my bit of a rambly video for today, folks. Hope you found something in it that you can either nod your head at or shake your fist at, either or. And if so, please leave your comments down below. But that's it for today, folks. Hope you've enjoyed the video. And if that's the case, like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget the live stream tomorrow and every Friday, 5 PM UK time. We drink beer and talk about stuff. Music, guitars, probably brands and brand snobbery a little bit this week as well. It's a great way to kick off the weekend, as I say, 5 PM UK time every Friday. We'll get the beers out and we'll have a natter. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.